Okay, let's dive in. If you're tuning into this deep dive, you're obviously thinking about your future, about growth. And today we're tackling something really interesting. It's part strategy, part psychology, all about getting ahead. We've been digging through a bunch of sources talking about these 12 signs you will be rich in 2026.
Yeah, and it's important right off the bat to talk about what rich means here.
Exactly, because it's not just about, a big bank account balance, is it?
Not according to this material, no. They frame rich much more, fundamentally. It's about real success,
Yeah.
but also freedom, deep peace of mind.
The ability to actually live life on your own terms, doing what you love, living how you want. That's the goal they're setting up.
That's it.
So our mission today is, well, to cut through the hype a bit, look at these 12 signs and sort of group them together, make it actionable. We want you, listening, to maybe see which signs you already have going for you, like what's your foundation? And maybe more importantly, figure out which ones you need to consciously build now. To aim for that 2026 target.
Now, what's really striking about these sources is how little they focus on luck or external stuff. It's all internal. It's about mindset, habits, powerful habits. The whole message is basically success isn't some lottery win. It's slow, methodical.
Grows from the inside out, you mean?
Precisely. Fueled by how you think, what you do consistently, and the actions you take. It's like installing an operating system for success and then, keeping it updated.
You like that, an operating system.
Yeah. And to help with that installation, we've grouped these 12 signs into 3 main themes. Makes it easier to process, I think. First up is what we're calling the internal operating system. This is your psychological foundation, how you think, how you react to things.
Got it. The mindset part.
Then we'll get into the momentum builders. These are the actions, the strategies, the vision you need for long-term growth, how you actually move forward.
Okay.
And finally, we'll look at strategic resource allocation. This is crucial. It's about managing your most precious assets, your money, sure, but also your time and even the people around you.
Makes sense. So let's start at the core, right? The mind. Yeah. Internal operating system. That really resonates because if that core programming is off, nothing else really works properly, does it?
It really doesn't. It's the bedrock.
Yeah.
This first section is all about how people who achieve this kind of richness, this success, how they process the world around them.
Okay, so let's jump into sign 1. This one feels foundational. You always want to learn more. Natural curiosity.
Foundational is the right word.
The sources are pretty emphatic here. They say the second you think, oh, I know this already, or I know everything about that, well, that's when your growth just stops, dead in its tracks.
Absolutely. That belief is a growth killer.
The successful people described, they have this restless curiosity, right? They're not trying to prove they were right about something.
No. The question driving them is different. It's always, what else can I learn here? Or what's the next level? What am I missing? It's an active seeking of knowledge.
And that seeking, that constant learning, the sources tie that directly to power and confidence.
They do. Think about it practically. You're facing a big decision. Maybe it's an investment, a career shift, launching a new venture. Where does the confidence to act actually come from?
Not just hoping for the best, I assume.
Exactly. It comes from feeling like you've done the homework. You have a solid current understanding. Knowledge lets you weigh the risks better, see the potential upside. It shrinks the zone of uncertainty.
That makes sense. Less guessing, more informed action.
Right. And the source material draws a really stark contrast here, and it might be a little uncomfortable for some listeners. It asks you to really examine where your time goes. Are you actively engaged in learning, reading deep articles, books, industry reports, listening to discussions like this one maybe, watching things about business trends, global shifts, new skills?
Or the alternative.
Or are you mostly consuming passively, scrolling through feeds for hours, watching random stuff online that doesn't really challenge you or add to your toolkit?
Ouch. That's a direct challenge to daily habits.
It is. But the point is clear. People who consistently carve out even small amounts of time to learn new things, new ideas, new tools, they're compounding their intellectual capital. They're getting ahead, step by step.
It's like intellectual interest compounding over time.
That's a great way to put it.
And being a lifelong learner seems like it would naturally lead into the next sign, sign 2. You focus on solutions, not problems. The problem-solving mindset.
It absolutely does. They're tightly linked.
So first, we have to acknowledge life throws curveballs, stuff goes wrong, plans fall apart. That's just reality.
Constant reality. Entropy is the default state.
Right. But the sources say the critical difference, the fork in the road, happens right after the setback. Some people get stuck complaining, blaming, ruminating.
Wasting energy there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And others, they almost immediately shift. Their brain goes to, okay, that didn't work. What's plan B? How do I fix this? How do I work around it? If you find yourself doing that instinctively, that's this trait in action.
It's a fundamental reframing, a psychological muscle you build. For successful minds, a problem isn't a dead end. It's just new information.
Data, you mean?
Exactly. Data. They've trained themselves, consciously or unconsciously, to look for the possibilities within the new situation, rather than just getting bogged down by what's broken or unfair.
Like the pilot analogy you mentioned earlier, focusing on the controls, not the turbulence itself.
Precisely. The turbulence is happening. Complaining about it doesn't help. What helps is focusing on the instruments, the checklist, the actions needed to stabilize. So every challenge, every failure gets reframed. It becomes a chance to learn something vital, to adapt, maybe even to build something stronger for the future because you found a weak spot.
Turning setbacks into stepping stones.
That's the essence of it, this problem-solving orientation. It's absolutely non-negotiable for this internal operating system we're talking about.
Okay, but solving problems effectively depends on feeling like you can solve them, like you have some control, right? Which brings us neatly to sign 10. This one feels big, maybe the hardest. You take responsibility, owning your choices.
It's huge. And yes, arguably one of the most difficult shifts for many people to make.
The core idea here seems to be about the language you use, internally and externally. The power shift happens when you say, okay, this is my situation, it's my life, I need to fix it.
Instead of
pointing fingers, blaming the economy, the market, your boss, your competitor, whatever, the external factors.
And that shift, that internal statement, I'm responsible, it's like flipping a switch, isn't it?
It feels like it. It's described as the crucial firewall in this operating system.
That's a good analogy, because without it, the whole system is vulnerable. If you genuinely believe your failure was just bad luck or someone else's fault, well, you've just made yourself powerless, haven't you?
Yeah, you're just a victim of circumstance then, waiting for things to get better to you.
Exactly. But the moment you own the choice, even the choice that led to a bad outcome, you reclaim your agency. You're back in the driver's seat.
Because if you made the choice, you can make a different one next time.
Precisely. The sources describe successful people as architects of their own path. They understand that where they are now, good or bad, is largely the result of past decisions. And owning that gives them the power to shape the future through new decisions.
From passenger to driver, I like that.
That's fundamental.
And if you're driving, you need a fuel to keep going, especially when things get tough. Which points to the last piece of this internal software puzzle. Sign 11, you stay positive, attracting results.
The energy component.
Okay, I have to push back a little here. Sometimes stay positive can sound a bit simplistic, like denial. If my business is failing, how does just being positive actually change the numbers? Isn't that just ignoring reality?
That's a really important clarification to make, and the sources address this directly. This isn't about toxic positivity or pretending problems don't exist. It's not delusion.
Okay, so what is it then?
It's about resilience. It's about managing your internal energy. Staying positive in this context means maintaining the core belief that a good outcome is still possible, even likely, despite the current mess. It's an underlying optimism that fuels action.
So it's more about maintaining forward momentum than pretending everything's fine.
Exactly. It's an energy state. And the sources argue this state actually attracts solutions and, crucially, attracts the right kind of people, collaborators, supporters who want to be around that energy.
Like attracts like, in a sense.
In a very real sense. Look at the language people use. Those who tend to stall often use words of limitation. I can't. It's impossible. The system is rigged.
Right.
Versus the positive mindset automatically searching for options. Okay, how can I get around this? What's another way? I'll find a way. It doesn't mean the path suddenly becomes easy. Not at all.
But it means you keep walking.
It ensures you keep walking, especially when it gets hard, which is precisely when most people give up. The sources frame obstacles not as walls, but as lessons. Necessary tuition, maybe, for future success.
Okay, that framing makes more sense. It's about productive energy, not just happy thoughts.
Precisely. And that positive, resilient energy is vital for things like networking, which we'll touch on later. It makes you someone others want to connect with. Okay, so we've installed the internal operating system, the mindset, the way of thinking and reacting. Now we need to talk about execution, getting things done.
Right, putting that mindset into action.
Exactly. This next cluster of signs, we're calling them the momentum builders. These are all about the strategies, the actions, the vision needed to actually build something, to create long-term growth. It's about initiating and sustaining movement.
Makes sense? Where do we start?
We start with sign 5. You have a clear goal, direction over drifting.
Clarity. Knowing where you're actually going.
Absolutely essential. Clarity is like oxygen for purposeful action. The sources really hammer this point. A vague desire like I want to be successful or I want more money, it's basically useless as a guide.
Too fuzzy.
Way too fuzzy. The goal needs to be concrete, specific. I aim to launch a SaaS product in the fintech space by Q4. Or my goal is financial independence through building a portfolio of 5 rental properties. Something tangible you can aim at.
A visible target.
Exactly. And the sources even mention a specific mechanism for achieving this clarity, one that often gets dismissed as maybe too simple.
Which is?
The physical act of writing it down. Getting it out of your head and onto paper or a screen, somewhere visible.
Yeah.
And then consciously thinking about it every single day.
Why is that daily reinforcement so critical? What does it actually do?
It transforms the goal from a wish into a filter, a decision-making filter. When that target is crystal clear in your mind, ideally reinforced daily, every choice you face, big or small, gets evaluated against it.
Like, does doing this move me closer to my goal or further away?
Precisely. Does this meeting, this project, this way I'm spending my next hour, does it align? If the answer is no, this decision becomes much easier. Discard it, delegate it, defer it.
It cuts through the noise and the millions of potential options.
It really does. This is how focused individuals avoid getting paralyzed by too many choices. And it prevents that slow, aimless drift that happens when you don't have a clear destination. Drifting feels easy, the source is worn, but it inevitably leads, well, nowhere in particular.
Having that clear goal, that destination, it almost forces you to confront what needs to change to get there, doesn't it? Which leads us right into sign 3. You are not afraid of change, the adaptable winner.
Perfect transition, yes. If you know where you want to go, you start seeing the roadblocks, including the internal ones like resistance to change.
And let's be honest, change is scary for a lot of people. Even if they say they want a different life, the actual discomfort of changing routines, leaving a familiar job, trying something new, it's a huge barrier.
It absolutely is. People cling to what's known, even if known is mediocre or actively harmful to their long-term goals. That fear of disruption, of the unknown, becomes this invisible fence keeping them stuck.
A self-imposed limitation.
Completely self-imposed and increasingly dangerous, wouldn't you say? Look at the world around us.
Yeah, things are changing faster than ever. Technology, markets, jobs.
Exactly. Constant, sometimes exponential change. The sources emphasize that the winners, the ones who will thrive in 2026 and beyond, are those who embrace this, who see change not as a threat, but as an inevitability, even an opportunity.
Adaptability as a core skill.
As the core skill, perhaps. Trying to desperately hold on to a system or a job that's clearly becoming obsolete just because it feels familiar, that's recipe for stagnation, or worse.
So how do people cultivate this adaptability? It's not like flipping a switch.
No, it's not. The sources suggest it often starts small. It doesn't have to be quitting your job tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's about small acts of courage that build that change muscle.
Like what?
Maybe starting a tiny side project online just to learn a new platform, dedicating an hour a day to mastering a skill that feels intimidating, changing your daily routine in a meaningful way, even deliberately seeking out conversations with people who have very different perspectives.
Small steps out of the comfort zone.
Exactly. These consistent, small acts of stepping into discomfort build resilience and adaptability. So when a big shift happens, a market crash, an industry disruption, you're mentally prepared to pivot, to adjust, rather than freezing or getting swept away.
That courage to adapt, to step out, it logically sets up the next sign, doesn't it? Sign 8. You take action, turning ideas into movement. This feels like where the theory stops and reality begins.
This is absolutely the pivot point, the rubber hitting the road, as you said.
Because we all know people, maybe we've even been that person who gets stuck in learning mode or planning mode forever. They read all the books, attend all the webinars, create the perfect spreadsheet.
But they never actually launch.
Exactly, they never start. And the source material is pretty blunt about this, isn't it?
Brutally honest. All the dreams, all the knowledge, all the perfect plans, they're worth precisely 0 without execution. You could memorize every business book ever written, but if you never actually build the product, make the call, publish the content, nothing changes.
Your reality stays the same.
Completely. Rich people, successful people, as defined here, are fundamentally doers. They have a bias towards action.
They embrace the imperfect start you mentioned.
Yes, that concept is crucial. They understand, maybe even expect, that the first version won't be perfect. The first attempt might fail. The first products will have bugs. But they prioritize getting moving over achieving perfection right out of the gate.
Because perfectionism is often just fear in disguise.
Often, yes. Fear of failure, fear of judgment. So they fight inertia, which is the real enemy here for the momentum builders.
So how do they do it? What's the mechanism?
The key seems to be accepting failure not as a final verdict, but as data. Part of the learning loop. They start, maybe small, they see what happens, they measure, they learn, they adjust, and they keep going. Iteration.
Learn, build, measure. Or maybe build, measure, learn.
Either way, the cycle involves action, and the sources connect this directly to the future timeline. 2026, they argue, will disproportionately reward those who stop strategizing in endless loops and actually start doing now.
Not waiting for the perfect conditions.
That's a trap, a self-deception. You have to launch the boat, even if you're still figuring out how to steer it properly. You adjust course as you go.
Okay, so you've launched the boat, you're taking action, but where are you heading? How far out are you looking? That seems to connect to sign 9. You think long-term, building strong roots?
Exactly. Action without long-term vision can just be frantic, unproductive movement.
And this sign seems crucial for distinguishing between, say, getting lucky with a quick win versus building something sustainable.
Very much so. The sources make a clear distinction between quick money, maybe from a risky bet, a temporary trend, and real lasting wealth.
And the difference is?
Roots. Foundation. Quick money often vanishes as quickly as it came because it wasn't built on anything solid. Real wealth, the kind that provides lasting freedom and peace of mind, is compared to a tree. It grows slowly, deliberately, requires patience.
So it's about having that patience, that long view.
Immense patience, yes, and genuine foresight. It means being able to visualize where you want to be, not just next quarter, but in 2 years, 5 years, maybe even 10 or 20 years, and making decisions today based on that long-term picture.
That sounds hard. Most of society seems geared towards instant gratification.
It is hard. That's why it's a sign of future success.
Yeah.
It requires discipline. But think about the advantage it gives you.
How so?
It acts as an incredibly powerful filter against distractions. All those get-rich-quick schemes, the flashy high-risk fads, the tempting shortcuts, your long-term vision immediately identifies them as noise, as potential traps.
Because they don't align with the slow, steady growth plan.
Exactly. Those schemes prey on short-term thinking, on impatience. Building something truly great, something with strong roots that can weather storms, takes time, significant time. This long-term mindset ensures you're planting seeds, not just chasing butterflies. All right, so we've covered the mindset, the internal operating system, and the actions, the momentum builders. This final section pulls it all together by looking at how successful people manage their key resources.
Okay, so this is strategic resource allocation. What resources are we talking about specifically?
The big three, according to the sources: your time, your money, and critically, your network, the people around you. How you strategically deploy these determines the pace and ceiling of your growth.
Makes sense. Let's start with maybe the most finite one. Sign 6. You value time more than money, the non-renewable resource.
Absolutely foundational. This insight seems almost universal among the successful individuals described. They've deeply internalized this truth.
Which is?
That money, well, money comes and goes. You can lose it, you can earn it back, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. But time, once a minute is spent, it's gone. Forever. It is the ultimate non-renewable asset.
And they guard it fiercely, you said.
Even ferociously. But, okay, practically, how does that show up? It's easy to say value time, but what does it look like day to day?
Yeah, how do people who really get this behave differently?
It shows up in their ruthless prioritization. They are incredibly intentional about allocating their time only to high-value, high-return activities.
Such as?
Things like deep work on core projects, creative thinking and building, strategic relationship building, not just casual socializing, focused learning and skill development, things that actually move the needle towards their long-term goals.
And what do they avoid? What are the time traps?
Oh, the sources list plenty. Endless, aimless meetings, constant interruptions from low-priority notifications or requests, getting sucked into office gossip or online negativity, spirals, things that consume hours but produce absolutely zero value.
That sounds like a constant battle for focus.
It is. The sources call it the discipline of time. It requires conscious effort to shield your focus and direct it only where it generates the best return. If you find yourself naturally, or through hard effort, cutting out those low-value time sinks, that's a very strong positive indicator.
And using time effectively on high-value tasks, presumably, helps generate the other key resource money. Which brings us to sign 4. You save and invest smartly, making money work.
Exactly. The two are directly linked. Better time allocation often leads to better financial outcomes.
And here, the sources redefine success again, right? It's not just about your income.
Not at all. It's not about how much you make, it's about how much you keep, and then, even more importantly, how effectively you deploy that capital. It's a shift from a consumption mindset to an investment mindset.
So first step is keeping it saving.
Absolutely. That's the baseline discipline. Saving money, even if it's small amounts initially, builds that crucial muscle of delayed gratification. It demonstrates you have control over impulse spending. It's step 1.
But saving alone isn't enough for wealth building.
Not usually, no. Saving protects capital, but it doesn't typically grow it significantly beyond inflation, if that. The real lever for wealth building, according to these sources, is moving from just saving to investing, making your money work for you.
And what does investing smartly look like in this context?
It means consciously directing your capital towards assets that have the potential to generate more capital, either through income or appreciation, ideally with minimal ongoing labor from you.
So things like...
Well, the common examples cited are things like consistent long-term investment in diversified low-cost index funds to capture broad market growth and compounding. Or, for the more entrepreneurially minded, reinvesting profits strategically back into their own business to fuel growth. Or investing in acquiring high-value skills that significantly increase earning potential.
And what do they avoid spending on?
They actively avoid frittering away capital on things that rapidly lose value, liabilities disguised as assets. Things bought primarily for status or fleeting pleasure rather than future growth. The core idea is planting your seeds, your capital, where they can grow into trees, not just eating the seeds today.
Plant the seed, don't eat the seed. Got it. That's a powerful metaphor.
It really clarifies the choice.
Okay, so we've covered time and money. What about the third resource, the people? Sign 7. You choose the right people, the circle effect.
This one is huge, and maybe underestimated by many.
That old saying, right? You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
That's the cliche. But the source material treats it as a fundamental law of personal development. It argues that your immediate circle, your friends, colleagues, mentors, they don't just influence you, they actively shape your thinking, your ambition, your habits, and ultimately your outcomes.
Wow. Shapes your thinking. How so?
It's like cognitive and emotional osmosis, or contagion. If the people you're constantly around are negative, complaining, risk-averse, maybe unambitious, that becomes your baseline. Their limitations start to feel normal, even inevitable for you too.
You absorb their worldview.
You can't help but absorb it to some degree. But the flip side is equally powerful. Surround yourself with people who are positive, driven, smart, ethical, maybe already successful in the way you aspire to be.
It lifts you up.
Dramatically. It accelerates your growth. They challenge you, they expose you to new ideas, they raise your standards for what's possible, what's considered normal effort or achievement.
So successful people are deliberate about this. It's not just luck who they hang out with.
Absolutely deliberate.
Huh?
The sources describe it as a strategic act of curation.
Yeah.
They actively seek out relationships that energize and elevate them, and they are equally active, sometimes even ruthless, in minimizing contact with people who consistently drag them down.
Removing toxic influences.
Yes, because they recognize the immense drain on energy and mindset those relationships represent. They understand that social capital, the right network, is a critical resource, just like time and money, and they allocate their relational time accordingly. It's often the missing piece that dictates how well the mindset and the actions actually perform.
That's a really insightful point about resource allocation, which brings us, I think, to the final sign, the one that seems to power everything else. Sign 12. You're hungry for more. The unstoppable drive.
Yes, this is the engine, the fuel for the entire system.
This isn't just wanting nice things, is it? It feels deeper.
Much deeper. The sources describe it as this inner fire, this relentless, almost insatiable desire to grow, to improve, to achieve your potential, to succeed often, regardless of external validation or current comfort levels. It's the drive that makes someone keep going when things get incredibly tough.
Unstoppable drive.
That's the term they use. And it's crucial to define it correctly, as you hinted. This hunger isn't necessarily greed, the desire for just more stuff.
It's more like
A hunger for more potential.
yeah.
A hunger to become better, to build something meaningful, to push boundaries. It's driven by an internal belief that your best work, your best self, is still ahead of you, that you haven't hit your ceiling yet.
So people with this drive, they don't really settle.
Exactly. Settling for good enough or okay is seen as the primary obstacle to achieving significant success or wealth. This hunger means okay is never the final destination.
And how does this manifest in behavior?
It manifests primarily as endurance, resilience, grit. When the learning curve is steep, when the project requires immense effort, when the investment demands patience and delayed gratification, this internal hunger is what provides the staying power.
It separates those who keep going from those who quit when it gets hard.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Because things will get hard. That's guaranteed. This drive ensures that setbacks are temporary. If failure is just feedback. The sources basically conclude that if you possess and cultivate this deep intrinsic hunger, achieving your goals stops being a question of if and becomes purely a question of when. The compounding effect of sustained effort, fueled by this drive, makes success almost inevitable over time. Hashtag tag outro.
Wow. Okay, that was a lot to unpack. We've really gone deep into these 12 signs, grouping them into those 3 core systems. You have the internal operating system, basically how you think and react, your mindset.
Right, the foundation.
The momentum builders, how you translate thought into action, strategy, and long-term vision.
Getting things moving and keeping them moving.
And finally, strategic resource allocation, how you smartly manage your most valuable assets, time, money, and your network.
Leveraging what you have effectively.
So now, the big question. The one the source material really pushes, and we need to pose it directly to you listening right now. Based on everything we talked about, the specific traits, the habits, the mindsets, take an honest look. How many of these 12 signs do you genuinely see reflected in yourself today?
And honesty is key there. No judgment.
Absolutely no judgment. Even if it's just 2 or 3 or 4, that's not a failure. That's a starting point. That's a foundation you can actively, consciously build on starting right now.
And remember the underlying theme that ran through all of this. Success, the kind we're discussing, freedom, peace of mind. It isn't sudden. It's slow. It's deliberate. It grows from consistency.
Consistency in mindset, habits, and actions.
Exactly. It starts with tuning that internal operating system, gets amplified by the momentum builders, and is sustained by smart resource allocation. You basically have the blueprint now.
So what's the final thought? The big takeaway?
Well, if we flip the usual way people think about wealth, if we take everything we've just discussed from the sources, we land on something pretty powerful. A concept you can mull over and maybe start applying the second this deep dive ends.
Okay.
You don't have to be rich financially to start thinking rich. In fact, you probably can't get there without thinking this way first.
So mindset precedes results.
Always. You cultivate the mindset first.
Yeah.
You start operating according to these principles, the curiosity, the responsibility, the action, the long-term view, valuing your time, choosing your circle wisely, staying hungry. You do that now. And based on those present-day thoughts and choices, your reality, your life, inevitably begins to shift and align with that thinking, that future you're aiming for in 2026. It really hinges on the mental starting point you choose today. Right now.